Let's talk about something I'm making a priority for 2025. Life gets so crazy and hectic, doesn't it? Sometimes it feels impossible to carve out the time to do something purely for the fun of it. But this year, I decided it's time to change that. So I'm starting a new personal endeavor. It's not a big goal. It's more like a gift to myself. I'm calling it my Artist Date, which you might see as a reference from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. Every week, I'm setting aside time to explore, create, and have fun with no pressure. These artist dates are all about inspiration. Some weeks I might do something that sparks new ideas for my creative work. Other times I'm challenging myself to try something completely out of my comfort zone. It could be visiting a new place, experimenting with an unfamiliar medium, or simply sitting outside with my sketchbook. This isn't about perfection or productivity. It's about reconnecting with creativity in its purest form, and I'd love to bring you along on that journey. The first artist date I gave myself this year was all about starting fresh by making some physical art. Now, of course, as a designer, I spend a lot of time creating digital artwork. Often this means working on large quantities of products, which means I don't necessarily give the space to anything that would take me several weeks to complete. But that is what this year is really all about, giving myself just a little time to do projects that might take more time than my normal design work. Furthermore, the artwork does not necessarily have a purpose, which is pretty backwards for me. I'm not saying all of it will not be purpose-driven, but I'm giving myself the space to create for the sake of creating. If you have worked with me in my Design Suite program or have taken a business class from me at the University of Arts and Design, you probably already know one of my golden rules, which is every creation should have a purpose. I've always believed that creativity is at its best when it serves a meaningful goal. But here's the thing, after designing for over 17 years, I've realized something important. Sometimes it's okay to pause, step back, and switch things up a bit. Taking a break from the purpose-driven mindset to just create for the joy of it can be incredibly refreshing.
This is a Tim Tam Slam. So take one bite right here on the side, and then one bite on the other side. Like that. Then in your hot chocolate, you put this in, and then you suck the hot chocolate through it. So good.
There's a freedom in allowing yourself to explore without boundaries or expectations. It's where new ideas can spark and where your creativity can breathe. Whether you're a seasoned designer or just starting out, I think we all need these moments to recharge and rediscover why we fell in love with creating in the first place. So today I wanted to show you one of my first steps outside of my routine to see if this process can actually make you a stronger, more inspired designer. And to make things clear, this is not how I would go about building a business. This is how I would go about dealing with creative block or helping myself during a creative drought. So to reiterate, don't think this is how you're going to build an art business. It is literally the reverse. When you've been building businesses for 17 years, you too will also get to decide how you want to mix things up to keep your creative juices flowing. And by the way, to kick off this whole art thing, I decided to just start on my birthday, and my husband decided to make our family Reese's peanut butter cup lava cakes. All right, here's my birthday cake Josh made me. Let's just see how it goes. Let's see if we can open it and if it's gonna be mushy inside. We did it. It looks great. And to really kick it off, I made my kids make art too, which turned into this.
Show me sadness. Show me sadness.
What I love about this is, one, I get to hang out with my kids, and two, it forces them to explore art in ways that they might not be getting in school. I try to nurture creativity at home, but I'm not great at structured art time. My older daughters are amazing at expressing their creativity, and they really enjoy the work they do. But let me ask, do you have a kid who's hard on themselves about their artwork? For me, that's my son. He's always ready to dive into an art project, but the challenge is getting him to believe it's any good. He often compares himself to his older sisters, which isn't fair. He's younger and hasn't had nearly as much time to explore and grow in his skills. That's why I was so thrilled when he created this awesome watercolor piece, and get this, he had the idea to frame it all in black. It turned out super creative and fun, and I couldn't be prouder. All right, back to my artwork. Remember how I said I was giving myself the freedom to create without any rush, just letting the process take as long as it needed? That's exactly what I've been doing. For this project, I decided to experiment with drawing a series of buildings. No quick shortcuts here. I really took my time, even pulling out my trusty ruler to get these clean, precise lines I was aiming for. It's been a great way to slow down and focus on the details. I definitely have some trouble letting go of certain things that I get from creating digitally. One of those are perfectly symmetrical lines. And while I know these lines will not be perfect once I start painting, it's nice to know that I'm not relying on my very shaky hand-drawn lines. One of the things I talk about in my boot camps is letting go of perfectionism. While I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist, I can be super critical of my own work. That's probably why I had this ongoing struggle with creating physical art for so many years. I rely so much on my digital tools to get things looking just right when stepping away from that feels a little bit daunting. And it's also been an opportunity to push myself and embrace the imperfections in a different way. I'm feeling like it's time to get a little Bob Rossi and find those happy little accidents.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
And let's face it, no one likes the Control Z as much as I do. This is all just one more good reason to spend 2025 doing a little more physical art, because it's an uncomfortable process for me. Sometimes I talk to fine artists who just adore their time in their artwork, but hate their time in the digital space. To that person, I would tell them to do the thing that is most uncomfortable for them. Once I finished drawing, I decided to go ahead and try a couple of watercolors, and I will admit, I started to dislike where this was heading. I usually love watercolor and the look, but I was feeling like I wanted something opaque. This didn't feel like a loose watercolor with all these structured buildings, so I didn't feel like the medium fit the material. Well, as you can see, I had super high hopes that in this very first art week that I was doing with myself that I was going to finish everything. And now I think I need to change my expectations. It looks like it's going to take me a couple of weeks or maybe even 3 weeks for every artist date I do to complete one art piece. So granted, tonight was a little crazy with the kids and my husband and the eating in between, but it's really clear it's going to take a little bit more time than I thought. So a week passes before I get back to working on this art piece. And because normal life is just so hectic, I figured I'm going to have to double up on some activities. All right, we are using date night.
It's date night.
To go get paint and Michaels for me.
What's the paint called?
Gouache.
Gouache. See, when you go on date night with Carina, you learn new words. Gouache.
Okay, Josh, how does date night feel to you going to Michael's?
You know, there's nothing like going to Michael's when you've been through the holiday season to just feel like you're right back in the holiday season.
I want to say I do not make him do this for date night usually, okay? This is a one-off thing.
What are you talking about? We have hundreds of date night videos on your channel.
No, we have none. We have none.
So I perused the aisles looking for a set with enough colors for my endeavors, and Josh made fun of being in Michael's. I've never heard of this jelly gouache. How many colors are here? 24? I just love the idea of more colors, like, because it's less mixing for me. I think I'm gonna go with this and just try it out. It could be horrible, but I guess we'll find that out. I settled on a gouache set to get the job done.
Josh, how do you feel about being the person who has to videotape in a store?
It's fantastic.
Also, do you guys know the size difference? We have a foot between the two of us. Like, I have to like look away.
That's a hand.
What?
You said we have a foot between us. That's a hand. Here, let's put a foot between us.
No.
Just kidding. I'm not that flexible anymore.
Date night has never been more awesome. Well, for me, anyway. Maybe not for Josh, because then I wore him down to get some ice cream. The next day, I carved out some time to start working on this art piece again. This time, my oldest daughter joined me.
This is the official palette choice of artists everywhere.
All of my professors are quaking.
Okay, I'm going to break open the jelly gouache. I have like concerns that this is not gonna be great, but here we go. Wait, are you gonna do watercolor or are you gonna do jelly gouache?
I'm gonna do watercolor because that's the one that you said.
There's a palette in here! You can use this palette! Here's the palette for you. And here are the color swatches. Oh my gosh. This came with paintbrushes too. I don't need these paintbrushes, but it's like a good idea. And then, okay, so it looks like you just open up the tops of all of these and then keep them in here. I think this is gonna be good. Oh shoot. Here's some orange for you. Did you want some orange?
I love orange. It's my favorite.
Oh my gosh,
color.
it's kind of hard to open. Look at it! Oh my gosh.
It's bleeding.
I feel like I'm in kindergarten again.
And the first gel tub became the beginning of my very messy encounter with these paints.
What is happening?
My dad is off camera. My dad is off camera crying.
Look at it! And he has the paper towels.
Thanks,
All you
Papa.
can see is like this mess that I made. Okay, this is, okay, wait.
I struggled with several more paints to get them open and just kept making mess after mess after mess. I finally get a steak knife and just cut into the paints and pull a bit out to paint with. I started all over this day with painting over everything I had already painted. I was already feeling a lot better about the results now that everything was opaque, even if I was still struggling to open up the gel packs. This is when things started to get fun. I like laying down layer of color before I add very many details so that I can get a feel for where the piece is going. I think there are some artists who have a vision of what their work looks like before it begins. I'm not one of those artists who gets hung up on this. Once I've laid down a pencil foundation, I'm fine letting go of the artwork and letting it evolve as it's meant to be. This process also is about learning to let go and get an end result. I hope it'll be a game changer for me by thinking in this way. It would give me a break from being overly critical of my work and help me enjoy the creative process more. The truth about art and design is that it's all about progression. If I compared the work I did 15 years ago to what I created today, I'd probably cringe. And that's okay. It's proof of growth. The more I practice and experiment, the better, or at least more authentic, my art becomes, aligning with my personal style. And by the way, this idea was inspired by a lecture on Julia Cameron's Artist Way that I did in one of my classes at the University of Arts and Design, and you can learn more about our master's degree and undergraduate certificate programs there. These art dates with myself, while it doesn't exactly follow her methodology, feels like a great way to start my year. One of the reasons I say it doesn't follow her methodology is because for an event to be a true artist day, it means you give the time and space for yourself to be alone. And well, I have definitely not been alone on these days. In fact, these art days were broken up by getting one of my daughters ready for a dance.
It does, I think, need to be down, half down, or full down. You know what would be cute is a little braid, a headband braid.
Okay.
What do you think, a headband braid? Siri, what do you think, a headband braid? A headband
that would be
braid.
cute.
And then the rest of it down and curled. Okay, do you have earrings? All right, get her out of that jumpsuit.
and spending time with my other daughter practicing her mini harp for a choir piece.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, this is
And after getting my daughter to a dance, I also had a quick stop at Chick-fil-A. That feels like an artist date in and of itself. Hey, this making artwork makes me very hungry.
Hi, can I get the Cobb salad, please?
I was on my way home to get back to painting. I would have loved to have gotten further into the painting process, but many of the interruptions got me halfway through. The next week I managed to do an artist date by myself. Carving out the time during a weekday was feeling hard, but I was determined to get a little focus time in to get this thing done.
So I am painting by myself. I have no kids with me. I'm in my office. It is dinner time. So I'm gonna use the next little bit to try to just get a little bit more done. I'd like to finish it, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm not gonna be able to.
The gel paints were still a pain to open, but I was able to use even the hardened paints on this project and just pick up from where I left off the previous week. I definitely bit off more than I could chew for this project. I was thinking it would be like 2 sittings, but even in this 3rd sitting, I realized I wasn't going to be close to finishing. And since this whole art thing is more for my mental health than anything else, I resolved to make the next art piece I do something I could finish in just a single sitting. Even if this was just for fun, I still like completing things. And I definitely have enough uncompleted things like quilt tops and clothing that never got sewn for me to decide that if I'm going to do this art thing in 2025, I'm going to finish what I start. I also managed to turn on a movie on my computer while I painted, and it almost felt like back in the day when all I did was design. So while I'm painting, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. When I started designing 17 years ago, my goal was to build a business from home while being home with my kids. Because of this, I didn't approach it as a hobby. It was absolutely essential that I make money after getting 3 degrees. That might have been one of the best things for me, because as I work with designers now, I see that those who have to make a design business are willing to put in the time necessary to get it going. They have I have to make this work attitude, which makes all the difference in business. So I started with digital scrapbooking. Did I know how to digital scrapbook? Nope, but it was the best way to start selling designs without dealing with inventory. From there, I worked towards manufacturer deals and more online shops that helped me fill out my design business. This included, over time, being the creative director of Carta Bella, owning a kids company called Mini Lou, being in several online platforms, working for 2 different fabric manufacturers, and getting a dishware line, working with Nordstrom's, and so much more. And I'm grateful for that time because it forced me to be scrappy and figure out the best ways to build a business. During that time, every single piece of art I made found its way into a digital format to be sold. Nothing was wasted, and all that time spent on creating a business counted, because if I was working on my business, then I wasn't hanging out with my kids, so every minute was precious. So even more, you can see why creating art just for the sake of creating is a fun goal for me this year. Oh, and even though I thought I could get this piece done during my 3rd session, it just really wasn't meant to be. So the next day I decided to ditch all my other work to finalize this piece. I needed to fill in the rest of the colors and then add details. I do like drawing in details with my brush, but often I revert to a pen or Sharpie because I like the control. Detail drawing is one of my favorite things, as well as pattern building. I need to think on that, because I think it would be fun to spend some time doing that on an artist date. Pattern building. And that's it, my first few artist dates, a gift I gave myself for kicking off the new year. Here's some of the lessons I learned about myself in this exercise. 1, I went a little bigger than I should have for this first project, and I needed to start a little smaller for future projects. 2, I enjoyed the very beginning and the end the most, and got a little bogged down in the middle. 3, I was good at letting myself just create what I wanted to, but I still have to be very careful of self-judgment as I paint. The point was to help me let out some of this dormant creativity that I haven't let myself have the last few years. So So what do you think of my New Year's Artist Date challenge for myself? Have you done something like this for yourself as well? Tell me in the comments. Oh, and I would love for you to subscribe to my channel for more videos on design and art. See you soon.